Welcome, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well out there. My name is Tyler Price, and I'm the sales manager here at DWS for our test automation tool, Dimension SwifTest. We'll be joined today, actually, by Sean Mayer. He is our lead product developer for Dimension SwifTest, as well as some of the other products that we offer here at DWS. Today we're really going to be spending some time on the value of test automation and what that means for us and really what that means for the customers that we speak with on a daily, weekly basis. Before we jump into it, I just want to let everyone know that this session is being recorded. I want to share, we have a chat box as well. So, throughout the session today, if you have any questions or thoughts or, things that you want to ask, please do in the chat box. We're going to spend some time at the end of the presentation to touch on those. Quick little shout out. I'd love to say hello to the OTUG Southwest user group. I think there might be a few folks in the audience today. Really excited to have everyone here. And I know next month actually is going to be the Ascend conference in Hollywood, Florida. So hopefully we have a chance to meet in person, which it's been way too long since we've been able to do that. But yeah, hopefully next month we have a chance to meet face to face and have some really good conversations. And just wanted to thank you one last time for really, taking time out of your day to listen in and hopefully learn a little bit more about what we have to say on the value of test automation. So let's jump into it. Looks like it's a little slow on my end. So just a quick look at the agenda for this afternoon. Really our plan today will be to take you through a number of slides where we really cover the functional testing opportunity. From there, we're going to dive a bit deeper into, what exactly the value of test automation is, and like I said, what we hear from our customers. We'll talk a little bit more about, our specific testing solution, Dimension SwifTest, what we do, how we do it, how it relates to the opportunity, and ultimately how we release value to your team. We'll also look at, again, many of the benefits of what our customers are saying when they use SwifTest. And we do have Sean on with us today, and he's nice enough. He's going to do a SwifTest demonstration for those that are interested in actually getting a look at the tool, how it works, what it looks like. And then at the end, we'll spend a few minutes to touch on all the questions and hopefully, answer anything that you guys need before we head out. So a little bit about us. DWS is an Oracle Gold partner. As a company, we started in the late 90s. Initially, we started as a specialist in the J.D. Edwards community, really focusing on development and technical services. I would say more recently, we still have a focus in that. However, more recently, over the last few years, we've released a suite of testing products for both J.D. Edwards E1 as well as the Oracle Fusion Cloud App community. Today we'll be speaking specifically around, Oracle Cloud Apps. But, again, we do offer services and products for both the J.D. Edwards community as well as the Cloud App community. One thing, we're not a massive company, but we do like to think that we punch well above our weight. And when I say that, we have a global customer base, and we're also staffed in 10 countries. So we're very much of a global company, and we certainly pride ourselves in being able to help and improve companies throughout the world. So let's jump into it. So, the functional testing opportunity and really, what we hear from folks. So today, honestly, when we talk about enterprise applications and those who are interested in, moving towards enterprise applications, many times the focus is really on continuous innovation as well as continuous adoption. We're moving to more towards a world where there aren't these big transformational changes to your business systems every 2, 3, or 5 years even. Things are being done much more frequently. And what we see now is, with your business system or in today's case, your cloud application, you're going to be seeing subtle changes or updates in that system much more frequently, which Oracle specifically provides every quarter with their quarterly updates. And for those who are using cloud apps, you are in control, kind of, sort of. And what we mean by that is, each quarter you do need to take the updates that Oracle provides. However, if you're doing it early enough, you do have some ability to dictate, where that update sits in the quarter, and ultimately, have an opportunity to turn on and off the features and functionality that you would like to add or not add, during that quarterly update. And for organizations that have recently moved to the cloud or are in the process of implementing Oracle Cloud Apps, it's really what we're witnessing is a new normal. And today, when we talk to people, it's really about running more projects, more frequently than they've ever had to do in the past. So, when we talk about the opportunity, and really what's interesting is anecdotally, when we talk to folks about managing their enterprise cloud applications, what we hear is, managing the testing of those applications has become a real problem. And speaking with them, what folks say is really anywhere between 25% and 65% of the total time and effort attributed to their software implementations or updates are really, that's done on testing. So what we're trying to deliver is an opportunity to deliver the tools that help your testing and that you do across the entire project, and we're helping you do those better and honestly much more efficiently. And it's worth doing because if you look at some of the information that is available, what you'll find is that companies of all sizes are allocating really a significant portion of their budget to the testing and QA. And so the report that we're looking at, this is actually the World Quality Report that Capgemini does on an annual basis. And after polling thousands of IT leaders, what they heard was almost a third of their IT budget was allocated to testing and QA. So initially when we saw that number, it was definitely a bit higher than to what I expected, or even some of the folks on the team expected. But the more conversations that we have with people, the more we realize this actually is this number is fairly accurate to what people are doing. And that's why, as a cloud apps customer, when you're going to be running these tests, much more frequently, finding the right tool to help reduce the overall cost can truly be valuable to your organization. So this next slide, I think, is it's really important because it's when we talk about testing, specific to packaged software, we often talk about stakeholders, and it's really understanding which applications that you may run, are required to have probably more of a focus on the functional testing. And what you're seeing up top is you're seeing the stakeholder, and one is the author and the other is the end customer. In this case, you can think of the author as the folks that would be writing the software. So I would say the folks that are from Oracle in this case, they are going to be, testing their software throughout the development and delivery process. However, to the right, you see the end customer, and it's a little bit of a different focus where, while the software may be tested from the author, it really doesn't take into account the specific business processes and the way that your business is using your application. So that's why when we talk about which applications that it's really crucial to test, some are just easier to justify, and and others just do not require as much testing TLC, as I call it, since they do not pose the same risk for the end user. So for the for the applications that I think typically probably don't carry the same importance, you're going to see these applications are non-transactional, standardized, fairly straightforward, even flexible, and operational. On the other side, it becomes critical and crucial to test when the applications in question are, much more transactional, where the software is being used is highly configured to your business process, and where the data going through the applications are dynamic and really important to the results that you would expect from a business perspective. When you're looking at applications or systems that are seen as mission critical, we're talking about things like your finance systems, your inventory systems, your order taking. And most would agree that at the very least it would be risky to not test these applications. However, on the other side, it's actually potentially irresponsible to take an update to a mission critical application without running the proper tests to understand the changes in that in that application. And when we talk about changes, with Oracle's quarterly updates, these changes are happening on a much more frequent basis. So with that said, understanding what to test and why it is important, it's still time consuming and a difficult task for most teams if you don't have the proper tools and strategy in place. And when we speak with those close to this process, many of them are working through similar problems or even testing bottlenecks as we see. And understanding those can typically be knowing what to test based on what you do and ultimately the changes in your specific application or the configuration to your application. And once you understand what to test, it's then planning and managing these tests that can create a lot of stress on a team. In order to do that, ultimately, if you're going to plan and manage appropriately, that really starts with creating the assets, or as the test scripts, and being able to edit those as required. And with the frequency of these projects, having access to the right people to run these tests can also be an issue. Whether it's a specialist like an engineer or a programmer, specific to your testing, many times if you're going to be running these tests as frequently as you might need, having access to those folks, it becomes increasingly difficult. And another is even the process of handing over from a project team to the end user for acceptance testing is a challenge for many. So another challenge, and I know the folks that are responsible for producing the documents will say, but another challenge is really producing the documentation that supports your testing. And again, we hear all the time from the folks responsible that this is probably their least part or their least favorite part of the process. And finally, for those living in a system that is getting the quarterly updates, really the time and effort to test and retest really becomes quite tight. And Oracle, for any update to your system, Oracle is going to give you a 2-week window to run your test for the update before it goes live into production. However, that 2-week window is ultimately, really a week to run your test, and then you have another week to, find the workarounds. And, many times you'll need to run, these tests, tens, if not hundreds of times, and that truly becomes unmanageable for teams that are not set up to do that, especially if you're doing this manually. If you are set up to do this, on an automated basis, what you will find is, you can see the benefits pretty quickly in the process. And that really brings us to the value of test automation, and really, again, this is what we hear from our customers and what we hear from folks that have implemented the proper automation tools to support their testing. So when we talk about the value of test automation, really the first area is repeatability. And when you think of a strategy that addresses your business requirements and your needs as an IT organization, you really want something that supports repeatability. And with the way you want to see within that tool, you want to see the ways that you run your business and projects reflected. Another area where test automation really provides tremendous value is just reducing the risk of these projects. It's very common for us to speak with folks that have had to use manual processes for their team, where they talk about just the risk of human error, and it's almost having to become comfortable knowing that it's likely that there will be human error at some point during the testing project. And again, if you're going to be managing hundreds or thousands of scripts, improving the quality and really reducing the risk of that project truly becomes a game changer. And anytime there's a change in your system and you're not testing, effectively, you leave a chance that there's an error, within your system, which ultimately is going to provide or it's going to cause a huge problem for the organization. And then finally, it's really the value, and it's really reducing the burden of testing or easing the burden. Early on, as we look to help solve the testing problem, we really did it with the view of lightening the load or even just easing the burden on your team. Not only to do the best job possible, but ultimately finding a better, more efficient way to do it. When we talk about a test automation tool, these are really the areas that we've seen with, specific to SwifTest, make an immediate impact with many organizations. And really, what's the goal of using a test automation tool, and what does it deliver? And ultimately, when you're looking at a project or even a testing in the context of a project, whether it's implementation for the first time or a quarterly update, we're trying to help you achieve smaller, faster, smarter projects. And when we say that, we talk about the frequent updates and in projects. That also means those updates and projects means that your company is delivering on the continuous innovation and the continuous delivery, which is the goal. I mean, that's when we talk to folks who are looking at moving to the cloud and moving to cloud enterprise applications. That is one of the reasons that makes it so attractive in the first place, is the continuous innovation and the delivery to your team. And when you're running these projects in a better, smarter, more efficient way, ultimately it allows you to deliver value to the business even sooner than you ever would have before. So this leads us to our testing solution, Dimension SwifTest. And when we talk about Dimension SwifTest, I think it is important to know. So Dimension SwifTest is part of our suite of testing products. It's native to the Oracle Cloud App Suite, as well as Oracle's JD Edwards Enterprise One. And with that, we talk about again these smaller, faster projects, and this is really what it looks like. The slide that we're really looking at shows more or less the steps of any given project. When you start an implementation, you're going to sit there, and the first thing you're going to do is really plan and prepare your testing scripts and your testing documents. And then ultimately, when you get further into the project, you're going to be, you're going to want to run those tests and ultimately document the results. And then even as the project progresses even further, what you're going to find yourself doing is needing to rerun and continuing to document the tests and the results over and over again. And really, when you do an update project, you're going to be doing the same thing. And what the green boxes at the bottom are meant to depict are really is SwifTest. You're given a platform and a framework to really compress the time and the energy that your team uses to really run these projects. So we're going to be jumping into the demonstration here pretty soon, but before we do, I did want to look at a couple of key points of of Dimension SwifTest and some key areas that it's valuable to know. So SwifTest was really made for to be used and taken advantage of by organizations and business analysts and the fact and super users of their applications. So when we talk about requiring specialist resources, that's one of the areas that SwifTest really it creates a huge value. Is if you're familiar with the application or the system, if you work in that application or system, you should really be able to run a test within SwifTest. And the other is, it's a cloud-based software as a service model, and it's hosted on Microsoft Azure. So it's definitely a really just up-to-date software tool. And as I mentioned, it's super lightweight. So it's web-based, which Sean's going to be able to show you plenty of this in the demo, but it has an extremely small client footprint. So when I say easy to use, part of that is also the training. Whereas many systems, what you'll find is, the training can go from weeks to months. SwifTest is really meant to get you up to speed in hours and days. One thing to that point is, DWS has done a fantastic job of creating an online learning environment for its users too. So that's called iLearn, the iLearn DWS Academy. And basically, people, when you're a user, you have access to all of the materials and training at any time that you're able to do at your own pace. And again, just being able to provide time to value in a matter of days is really just it's a great add-on for organizations that are looking to take advantage as quickly as possible. So to recap, and I think these are all you'll notice this as we go through the demo, but a few really key points that separate SwifTest is, it's application aware, meaning, if you're running an Oracle application, SwifTest is going to be able to pick up that specific application, whether it's ERP cloud, HCM cloud. It's going to know exactly what you're working in and, help you, design in that matter. Test scripts can also be soft coded, so it really it provides just a ton of efficiency when you're managing those test scripts and needing to edit on the go. And then within SwifTest, it's able to really replicate your end-to-end business processes. So you're able to understand how everything would be working together, after an update. And a couple of pieces of benefits that our customers see is, really the 60% of time that they're saving just on their test execution, as well as, even higher, 70% savings on the test creation and the maintenance. So it's really managing those test scripts, where people are just saving a ton of time. And as we've said before, these are really the areas where organizations using this tool tend to see a significant impact right away. So I think, at this point, I'm going to pass the mic over to Sean, and he's going to take us through a demo of SwifTest.
Thanks, Tyler. So we're going to start off today in the Dimension Hub, which is our online portal for all of our software and our services. And here we're looking at a dashboard in SwifTest, and this is just a high-level overview of what's been going on in this environment for the month of June. And we can drill into the different levels in SwifTest, which is the top level is projects. Each project is made up of one or more scenario, and each scenario is made up of one or more tests. Now, we are on purpose unopinionated about how you set this up because every organization has a different idea about how to do this. But one way that we've been seeing customers use this very successfully is to create a base catalog, or maybe several base catalogs. But the idea is that this is your master library of tests, and at any point you can click play on those tests and confirm that your system is working the way that you expect it to. But the idea is you don't do your testing in these base catalogs. Whenever there's a change event, and a great example of that is the quarterly updates from Oracle, is you copy this base catalog into a testing project, for example, one like this. You can either copy the whole thing or copy individual scenarios, individual tests, and you do all of your testing in this testing or execution project. This will keep track of every test that was run, who ran it, how long it took. It'll take screenshots. SwifTest is also self-documenting, which I think is one of the nicest things about SwifTest, because creating the documentation that proves that you did the testing that you're supposed to is one of the worst parts of testing, and SwifTest will just do that for you. So this testing project will prove that you did all the testing that you were supposed to, and once you're finished with the project, you can archive it or just leave it there forever, whatever you want. But the idea is that anytime you make changes to tests in this testing project, you copy it back to the base catalog so that this is always up to date. Okay, so now I'm going to switch into the SwifTest application. So this is a Windows desktop application. It's really lightweight. It's about 20 megabytes in total. It doesn't require a developer machine or anything like that. It just needs a Windows machine that has access to your Cloud Apps instance. And here we're seeing the same list of projects that we saw in the hub. This is our base catalog, and we're going to have a look at some order to cash tests. Here is our testing project. So what I'm going to do is just copy a couple of tests over. I'll copy this one, which is going to create a sales order using a standard stocked item. And then I'll copy over this one as well, which is just a test that I'm going to use to demo how we actually create our scripts. Okay, so we've got those two tests there. I'm going to execute this test, and I will talk you through what it's doing as the test is running. So we'll execute that. Okay, so the very first thing that it's going to do is it's going to check if we've got an open session to Cloud Apps, and we don't even have a browser open, so it's going to open a new browser for us, and it's going to log in. Am I still online? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, can hear you. Yeah, loud and clear.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to try that again. For some reason, it couldn't click to the cloud. This is the curse of the demo. I tried this a few minutes ago and everything worked fine. Let's see if we can use another environment. Let's try this one.
That doesn't happen too often.
No, this actually means that there's a problem with cloud applications. Let me just sign back in again, and I'll. Yeah, let's try that again. I'm gonna try this from another browser. Sorry about this, everybody. I did test this 5 minutes before the call, and I could log in fine. There does seem to be a problem.
Tyler, why don't you finish the end of the presentation with a couple of slides you've got, and then we'll see if Sean can get
maybe
back
we
and
can
get
come
back
back.
into the presentation. Shall we do that?
Yeah, no, that sounds great. You want to switch it over to me?
Yeah.
So, I think what we talked about today is, if there is an interest in learning, specifically how Dimension SwifTest is being used and is being used in by different organizations, we do have an ebook that we recently released in our resources page on dwsglobal.com. Where we go through, how specifically the tools help within specific industries. And then, ultimately, I will say the one thing is we love speaking with different folks who are, managing and needing to run these projects for their organization. We love hearing your perspective on what you're doing, how you're doing it, how it's working. So we do want to, invite those who are interested in discussing these pieces a bit further to reach out to us. We'd love to share, more on Dimension SwifTest, but we'd also just love to hear, how you guys are working through, the testing issues that many of the other organizations that we speak with are dealing with as well. Now, Rachel, have we had any questions come in?
I think, yeah, one of them was, I think Sean touched on this actually, just how easy is it to get up and running. I think we did discuss that in the beginning, just, the ease of use and the fact that, you know, as Sean mentioned, that you don't really need to have a big setup time and training. So maybe you just want to touch on the training that, you know, we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, and we can certainly touch on that again, because, you know, when we're talking about many of the tools that are being used, you know, SwifTest is really meant to be easy to use, and that's what we talk about many times is, you know, managing your projects and your testing processes can be very difficult, but it really doesn't need to be. If you have the proper tools in place, it's something that, you know, you and your team can learn to manage with great efficiency and ultimately take the stress out of, you know, what that folks would call the, you know, the test anxiety. So again, if anybody is interested in learning more and discussing your specific organization and your process, we certainly would love to speak with you and learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. I think we can leave it there. I mean, again, I think we'll follow up with anybody after individually, and I think there's no more questions come in. We've covered them all in the presentation, so I think we can just finish there.
Well, yeah, so I just wanted to take one last second to thank you, everyone who attended. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. And yeah, we certainly look forward to you know, speaking with you in the future. Thank you.